There is a building strategy so effective that every major civilization on Earth discovered it independently. The Jomon in Japan, the cave dwellers of China, the Vikings in Iceland, the Puebloans in the American Southwest, the Mandan on the Great Plains, the Berbers in North Africa, the pit house builders of ancient Turkey, separated by thousands of miles, thousands of years, completely different languages, religions, and economies. And they all arrived at the same answer. Stop fighting the ground. Start building with it. Not on it, with it, inside it, surrounded by it. This is a story about how humans learned to let the Earth itself become the heating system, the cooling system, the insulation, the storm shelter, and the sound barrier. All at once. All for free. And how the modern world, armed with furnaces and mortgages and building codes, decided that 10,000 years of engineering was not good enough. The archive opens roughly 10,000 years ago. In what is now Japan, during the late Jomon period, people were not building houses on the surface. They were digging into it. They carved shallow pits into the earth, sometimes half a meter deep, sometimes a full meter. They raised timber frames above these pits and covered the structure with thatch, branches, and soil. The result was a dwelling that was half underground and half above. The sunken floor was not a limitation. It was not a compromise. It was the entire point. Because the Jomon understood something that most modern builders seem to have forgotten. The air above ground is chaos. On any given day, the temperature outside your house might swing 20, 30, even 40 degrees Celsius between dawn and the afternoon sun. Wind rips heat away from surfaces. Rain saturates walls. Snow piles weight onto roofs. The atmosphere is a constant assault on anything standing in it. But just 2 meters below the surface, something remarkable happens. The temperature stabilizes. In most temperate climates around the world, the ground holds a nearly constant temperature between 10 and 16 degrees Celsius. All year, summer, winter, day, night. During a blizzard, during a heat wave, the Earth does not react to the weather. It absorbs, it holds, it releases, slowly, patiently, on its own schedule. This is a phenomenon called thermal lag. The Earth absorbs heat from the sun during warm months. That heat migrates slowly downward through the soil. By the time it reaches a depth of 2 to 3 meters, weeks or even months have passed. So the deep ground in winter is still radiating the heat it absorbed last summer. And the deep ground in summer is still cool from last winter. The soil is always behind the season, always buffering. The Jomon did not have thermometers. They did not write papers on soil thermal conductivity. They just knew that when the wind screamed above, the pit was warm. And the principle traveled, or more accurately, it was reinvented, independently, over and over again, by people on different continents who would never meet each other. In the low-S plateaus of northern China, in the provinces of Shanxi and Shaanxi, entire communities carved their homes directly into the earth. These dwellings are called yaodong. The word translates roughly to kiln cave. But these were not primitive holes scraped into hillsides. They were engineered living spaces, arched ceilings that distributed the weight of the earth above, raised sleeping platforms called kang, heated by flue systems connected to cooking stoves, ventilation channels that moved fresh air through corridors without any mechanical assistance. The most striking version is the sunken courtyard design. Imagine a flat field. You dig a rectangular pit 10 meters deep. At the bottom, you carve rooms into the earth walls on all 4 sides. The courtyard is open to the sky above, so sunlight pours down into the central space. But from the surface, you cannot see the house at all. You could walk right over it without knowing 40 people live beneath your feet. Some of these yaodong communities have been continuously inhabited for over 4,000 years. Tradition may stretch back 7,000 years. As recently as the early 2000s, estimates suggest that tens of millions of people across northern China were still living in some form of earth-sheltered dwelling, not as a cultural curiosity, as housing, as the most logical way to survive a climate where winter temperatures drop to -20 and summer temperatures climb past 40. The Earth does not care what the thermometer says, it just holds. Now move the map northwest, to Iceland. For over 1,000 years, Icelanders built turf houses. The structures at Keldor, in the south of the country, are among the oldest standing buildings in Iceland. Thick walls made of layered turf and stone wrapped the living space in a blanket of earth. Inside, a small fire and the body heat of the inhabitants were enough to keep temperatures livable, even through winters where the sun barely rose above the horizon for months. The insulation was not theoretical, it was measurable. Those thick turf walls created a thermal envelope so effective that the interior temperature remained stable while the exterior plunged far below freezing. No furnace, no electricity, just the mass of the earth doing what it does. The Vikings carried this knowledge across the North Atlantic to L'Anse aux Meadows on the northern tip of Newfoundland. They built sod-covered longhouses. The structures were so thoroughly integrated into the landscape that from a distance they were nearly invisible. Mounds of green on a grassy coastline. That camouflage served two purposes: protection from enemies, but far more importantly, protection from the cold. The Atlantic wind is merciless on that coast. The sod houses held, cross the ocean again, move south. In the American Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans built one of the most sophisticated earth-sheltered communities ever documented. Mesa Verde. Mesa Verde is a complex of dwellings constructed directly into natural alcoves in the cliff faces. The sandstone cliffs acted as massive thermal batteries. During summer, when the sun was high in the sky, the overhang of the cliff shaded the dwellings completely. The stone stayed cool. During winter, when the sun dropped low on the horizon, direct sunlight penetrated deep into the alcoves, warming the stone walls and floors. That stored heat radiated back through the night. Passive solar heating and cooling, perfected 1,000 years ago. On the Great Plains, the Mandan and Hidatsa peoples built earth lodges, large circular structures framed with heavy timber and covered in layers of grass, willow branches, and packed earth. Some earth lodges were over 15 meters in diameter. They housed extended families. They were the center of community life, and they were warm in winter, cool in summer, and nearly indestructible in the violent storms that raked the open prairie. When European settlers arrived on the Great Plains in the 1800s, they found a landscape with almost no trees and no quarry stone. So they did what the land demanded: sod houses, soddies. The interior walls sometimes wept dirt. Insects lived in the ceiling. Rain turned the roof into mud. The settlers complained about everything, except the temperature. The settlers complained about everything, except the temperature. The soddies were warm in winter, cool in summer. The earth was doing the work, whether the settlers understood why or not. In North Africa, the Berber people of Matmata in present-day Tunisia carved their homes into the soft sandstone earth. Sunken courtyards, rooms hollowed out of rock. Temperatures inside rarely deviated from a comfortable range, even as the Saharan sun pushed exterior temperatures past 50 degrees Celsius. These homes have been inhabited for centuries. Some are still occupied today. One of them became famous in 1976 when it was used as a filming location for a desert planet. The filmmakers chose it because it looked alien. It was not alien. It was ancient, and it was comfortable. In Iran, the village of Maymand has been continuously inhabited for over 3,000 years. The homes are carved directly into volcanic rock. Research monitoring the thermal performance confirmed what the residents always knew. Interior temperatures remained remarkably stable without any air conditioning or energy input. Every one of these civilizations, different continents, different millennia, different materials. Same answer. Put Earth between your living space and the atmosphere. Let the thermal mass do the work. The ground is not your foundation, it is your climate system. The physics behind all of this is not mysterious. It just requires understanding three concepts. First, thermal mass. Dense materials like earth, stone, and concrete absorb heat slowly and release it slowly. A thin wooden wall absorbs almost nothing. A meter of compacted earth absorbs enormous amounts of thermal energy and then radiates it back over hours or even days. The denser the material, the more heat it can store. Second, thermal lag. Because the Earth absorbs heat slowly, there is a significant delay between when the surface temperature changes and when that change reaches deeper layers. At a depth of just 2 meters, this delay can be weeks or months. This means the deep ground is always out of phase with the surface weather. A thermal buffer nature maintains for free. Third, reduced air infiltration. A conventional house has gaps around every window, every door, every joint where wall meets roof. Cold wind finds these gaps. Warm air escapes. An earth-sheltered home has 3 of its 4 walls buried in soil. There are no gaps for wind to penetrate. The rest of the building is sealed by the earth itself. Combine these 3 principles, and the numbers become extraordinary. Research data from monitoring stations in the US, Europe, and Asia all converge on the same finding. Earth-sheltered homes use 50 to 80% less energy. A study at Oak Ridge National Laboratory found that an earth-covered structure achieved heating costs of just $1.70 per square meter for an entire season. A Korean study found that the underground home maintained interior temperatures between 15.8 and 20.6 degrees Celsius year-round, with only 5.4 degrees of variation across the entire winter. And there is more. Earth-sheltered homes are essentially immune to tornado and hurricane damage. The earth absorbs wind loads that would shatter conventional walls. They are fireproof from the outside because there is nothing on the outside to burn. They are soundproof because earth is one of the most effective acoustic barriers known. The grass on the roof mows itself if you let it. An architect named Malcolm Wells understood all of this. Born in 1926 in Camden, New Jersey, Wells became a licensed architect in 1953 without ever completing a college degree. He passed the state examination with a perfect score. For the next decade, he designed conventional buildings, corporate offices, parking lots. He estimated that he personally paved over 50 acres of land with buildings and asphalt. Then came 1964. Wells designed the RCA Pavilion for the New York World's Fair. It was a grand structure. President Johnson visited, and then 2 years later, it was torn down, demolished. Wells looked at the destruction and something broke open inside him. He woke up to the fact that the Earth's surface was made for living plants, not industrial plants. He visited Taliesin West, Frank Lloyd Wright's compound in the Arizona desert, where an underground theater stayed cool without any mechanical system while the surface temperature soared above 40 degrees. That visit confirmed what the Yaodong builders, the Jomon, the Puebloans, and the Vikings had already proven. Wells spent the rest of his career designing earth-sheltered buildings. His own home on Cape Cod was built underground. His office in Cherry Hill, New Jersey was buried so completely that from the street it looked like an empty lot with a garden path leading into the ground. He wrote over 20 books. He created a famous checklist of 15 criteria that every building should meet, including consuming its own waste and providing wildlife habitat. He heated his art gallery by burning just 2 cords of wood per year in a small stove. The earth did the rest. Wells died in 2009. He never saw his ideas reach mainstream adoption. But everything he advocated was right. The physics was right. The economics were right. The durability was right. The only thing that was wrong was the timing. Earth-sheltered homes typically cost 10 to 20% more to build than conventional houses. But that premium is recovered within years through energy savings, near-zero maintenance, and vastly extended structural lifespan. A conventional roof lasts 20 to 30 years before it needs replacement. An earth-covered roof, properly waterproofed, lasts the lifetime of the structure. We are not talking about buildings that survive for decades. We are talking about buildings that survive for centuries. But banks cannot easily appraise a house that is half underground. Insurance companies have no standard category for it. Building codes in most countries are written around conventional stick frame and masonry construction. A technology that cannot be metered, branded, or sold as a subscription faces systematically higher barriers. This is just how systems built around proprietary products respond to solutions made from dirt. And yet, some people kept building. Now look at this. This is what 10,000 years of accumulated knowledge looks like when someone actually uses it. A modern earth-sheltered home. Semi-subterranean architecture integrated directly into the terrain around it. The structure is partially buried in a hillside. The roof is covered in earth and grass. Not for decoration, for function. That soil layer provides insulation equivalent to R20 to R40, depending on depth and moisture content. Comparable to 6 inches of fiberglass bat, except it will never degrade, never need replacement, and will actually improve its thermal performance over time as root systems grow and organic material accumulates above it. The curved walls are not aesthetic choices, they are structural engineering. Arched forms distribute the immense compressive load of the Earth across the entire surface of the roof without concentrating stress at any single point. This is the same principle that allowed Roman engineers to build aqueducts that still stand 2,000 years later. The same geometry that holds up medieval cathedral vaults, applied here to a single-family home that someone heats with sunlight and thermal mass. The right side opens dramatically. A wide-arched entryway frames a massive wall of glass, flooding the interior with light. That glass is not decoration, it is passive solar design. That sunlight heats the concrete floors, the stone walls, the thermal mass of the entire structure. The heat is absorbed slowly and released slowly. Hours after the sun goes down, it is still warm. In summer, when the sun is high overhead, the roof overhang and the earth berm shade that same glass wall naturally. The house cools itself in summer and heats itself in winter. No programmable thermostat, no smart home app, just geometry, just physics. On top of the glassy roof, you can spot ventilation stacks and a skylight. Stack effect ventilation moves air continuously through the living space without fans, without ductwork. The entire property looks calm, organic, almost hidden in the landscape. Bare trees behind the house suggest late winter or early spring. A simple stone path leads to the front door. The grass on the roof blends with the hillside so naturally that from above, the house might be invisible. And while every conventional home in the neighborhood is running a gas furnace, burning fuel, cycling on and off all night, watching the utility meter spin, this house is doing nothing. No monthly energy bill climbing every winter. No furnace that will fail in 15 years and cost thousands to replace. No ductwork collecting dust and mold. No dependency on a fuel source controlled by someone else. The Jomon knew it 10,000 years ago in their sunken pit houses. The Chinese knew it in their carved yaodong. The Icelanders knew it in their turf walls. The Puebloans knew it in their cliff dwellings. The Vikings knew it crossing the Atlantic. Malcolm Wells knew it standing in the rubble of the World's Fair. And whoever built this house knew it too. The technology is not experimental. It is the most tested building strategy in human history. 10,000 years of field testing across every climate zone on the planet. Desert, Arctic, temperate, tropical. The Earth does not discriminate. It just holds. Every share builds what they tried to bury. Every view is a vote for knowledge they do not want you to have.